Hey gents, ever felt like the camera turns you into a nervous wreck?
Kind of what makes me me. So to start with, I do it's to build muscle, but it's more of a body. That one, let's fly through that.
Well, stick around because today I'm sharing how I transformed from the camera shy person I used to be to the confident spokesperson for over 117 world leading brands.
If you've been a CEO, manager, or leader for long enough,
In this video, you'll learn 10 proven strategies that helped me build a humble following of 50,000 followers across major platforms and earn over 100K last year on Upwork and Freelancing. It's truly changed my life, and it's very much a learned skill. So if you're looking to boost your camera confidence and improve your business or personal brand, you've come to the right place. Let's jump right in and reverse engineer why we often feel unconfident on camera in the first place and how we can overcome it. So how did I get camera confident from the very beginning? Well, it starts with understanding what makes us feel unconfident on camera in the first place. The big three culprits are fear of judgment, self-doubt and performance anxiety, and comparisonitis. At least they were for me. Now, fear of judgment and self-doubt often stem from upbringing or environment. Performance anxiety can definitely come from negligent parents who didn't encourage our talents or push us to test ourselves when we were younger. And we didn't train that rejection resilience from a young age. And the same applies for how we treat ourselves. Then there's comparisonitis, that nasty habit of comparing our beginnings to someone else's end. I love the saying, we won't create to our ideal in the imagination, but when we do create, it will be somewhere better than the worst we ever imagine, and likely better than the middle. Also in the book Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, there's a saying that goes, favor and disgrace would seem equally to be feared. Honor and great calamity to be regarded as personal conditions of the same kind. Simply put, this just means we fear achieving, for we know the calamity that may coexist when losing the gain or attaining to the standard that is required of making it. So we freeze, stay in inaction. But let me tell you this, you were born to be challenged and break these walls. Now, before I get started, I just want to tell you a quick personal story. At about 22 years old, I always aspired to be that fitness influencer. My past brand was called The Health Hunk. I was expressive, animated, and dreamt of being an actor. However, I believed I was uninteresting, anxious, and didn't think I had what it took. I used to trip up on every word.
Right guys, so what we're gonna do today is start again.
My brain thought too quickly for my mouth to even keep up. I approached it all wrong. But fast forward 6 years, having worked with major brands like Gillette, Better Me, and Global Work and Travel on spokesperson campaigns and creating thousands of videos, there's much to be learned from how I made it, and I'm continuing to hone my craft. I believe, backed by the greats Carl Jung, is that the fear and self-incongruence are very much bred by our environments. The greatest secret for me to improve was to leave a more judgmental, uninspiring England and kickstart in vibrant, inspiring Bali, where there were lots of other creators creating and were on the very same journey. They appreciated the grind, didn't judge so much, and encouraged the goal. It makes a huge difference. And that's just a great pre-frame to the 10 points I'm about to share. Number 1, your outfit. Treat your on-camera appearance like an office job. But remember, focus on the inside out rather than the outside in. While it's important to make yourself feel attractive, it's even more important to focus on the energy you bring and the message you want to deliver. When I used to agonize over my hair, trying to angle my head to my good side at school with girls or on camera, trust me, I did this. I looked at every car window to see if my hair was on point. Anybody else guilty of this? And the funny cosmic joke is I'll likely lose my hair in a few years, and it's not the core competency I should be focusing on. So more than ever, while doing what you can to make yourself feel attractive is important, it's more so the energy you bring. You also don't need to be an exuberant personality, but more so a trusted confidant. By focusing on delivering the message outwardly, just like social anxiety at a party, focusing on one person in a group, you basically minimize the internalization spiral that can happen. You focus on minimizing the monster that we build in our head to simply a battle at a time. And when you focus on just delivering it to one person or a mate in a room, to your camera or your phone, it just eases that anxiety. People also prefer raw, vulnerable, and less polished. And here's a fun fact for you. People listen to attractive presenters. Not that you must be attractive, but the definition of attractive, in my opinion, is someone who is presentable, magnetic, and looks and believes that they're convincing. Believe it or not, everyone is subconsciously trying to suss out who is credible, authoritative, and a trustworthy source for all information. So to add that cherry on top of credibility, go ahead and scrub up. Number 2, using a teleprompter can significantly reduce speakers' block. Personally, I recommend the DeskView T2. I've gone through a few teleprompters, and this one is kind of the middle of the range, rather approachable and easy to use. It's very flexible and can even be used on run and gun shoots. And you can plug on your phone as a quick teleprompter. Now, to coexist with the phone, you need an app. And to begin with, I started with the teleprompter app on App Store, and it was the free version. But then I later discovered a voice scroll app called Prompt Plus. And I wish I was told about this sooner. And it's been a game changer to speak at your own pace. Because when I used to use the manual apps, they just had strict guidelines and speeds, of which when you were fiddling up and fuddling over your words, you couldn't stop, riff, and hybrid with the script. Once that script was gone, it was gone. You had to replay it, use your remote to rewind. But when you're using the voice scroll, I must say, this has helped me stay consistent with my delivery and maintain a more natural flow and go hybrid when I most want to. While a teleprompter helps you move onward and upward and avoid that beastly freezing spiral, it shouldn't be hugely relied upon like a crutch, because we're still trying to build that muscle of confidence in our communication and honing in that coherent speech. And this is what I'll be sharing, that the greatest speakers have what I will share with you in number 8. Number 3, know thyself, know Thyspeak. Now, I love all kinds of personality tests, but here are the ones I highly recommend you get tuned in on. The Enneagram. I know I'm an ENFP, so I'm extroverted, intuitive, feeling and perceiving, and this helped me deliver in a way that was more adventurous, emotional, and focused on the topics I genuinely was passionate about. And then when you have your Seductive Characters by Robert Greene, mine is the charismatic entertainer. And so a creative, emotional, and philosophical delivery would probably work best with my personality, as opposed to an ISTJ who may be more scientific, logical, and like a research paper kind of presentation. And a couple of great famous examples. Think Will Smith. He's the campaigner a lot like me. He really much tunes into his entertainer. He loves to do comedic content, and he's an actor through and through. There's also Russell Brand, a very similar Enneagram to me as well, but he's very much philosophical. He likes to be a wordsworth, and he might also have the seductive character of a coquette, somebody who loves to craft poetry and be poetic with their delivery. And if you're more ISTJ and a bit more logical, but equally as tangible and great on camera, you might be someone like the Notion expert, Thomas Frank. Each have their own gifts and communication leadership, so hone into yours and don't neglect it. Number 4, speak to the camera as you would do to your best mate. Try and personalize the experience rather than trying to gain fame. Because when we depersonalize what we're trying to approach, it's never going to be genuine. And I know that this is a skill that's going to be taking hours to hone in and get better. So we need to enjoy the process. And as soon as we try and break walls to strangers and integrate something more familiar, we're likely going to want to approach that environment. I would also very much suggest creating an introduction, starting with a trigger introduction that's really building familiarity. These days, I say, "Hey gents," as if I'm walking into a lobby saying hello to my best mates. I would go a step further here and actually target just one person. So if I go, "Hey gent," you're looking at just one person in the room rather than a multitude. Because cameras don't give us any feedback and we're social creatures that respond very much of the time, I would highly recommend maybe even personifying your camera, putting googly eyes on it, telling it bad jokes. No, I'm kidding. Interesting storytelling, as if you're telling stories to a mate, recounting what you went through. And I know this content tends to do best. I'd also recommend The Truth Always Spilled by Jordan Peterson. is saying, tell the truth or at least don't lie. I think if we build upon foundations of lies, it will catch upon us. And lies need to always be fabricated. So you're in a very high functioning state, just trying to think up something to keep the pace. If you're recounting truths, facts, you're likely going to be way on point with your delivery. And if you imagine that camera as a good mate, you're likely going to vary your pitch, intonate a few times, and lower the walls, not have this monotonous delivery. 5, remember you can edit, so it's not the end of the world. I highly recommend creating a series, The Unpostables, or the Garbage Post Challenge. It's very healing for people with freeze mode or perfectionism, as you're slowly building comfort with resistance-free posting and not curating your content, rather just documenting so you can be more in that flow state and not interrupt it. And for fellow perfectionists, good enough is great. And if your goal is to grow a following or gain some results, you're really just pitching loads of raffle tickets that you're behind yourself and you believe in yourself, and potentially the algorithm will pick you up eventually. 6, have a segue statement. Now, I touched on this already, but using something like sup hunks or hey gent. But what's better is singling out your ICP. And ICP means ideal client profile or ideal viewer profile. Let's call it IVP. This is your ideal avatar, and you want to speak directly to them. Something like, "You're right, me lover." It's personal, and it also builds rapport. They build familiarity with you straight away. And this pre-framing in a familiar way makes storytelling warm. And our goal is to peel back the layers of resistance to let the authentic self connect with the viewer. 7, expand your vocab. And I mean dive deep into books. I highly recommend looking at synonyms to interesting words, especially words you're newly discovering for the first time. Whether you like it or not, it is creating a very, very great communication knowledge. You want to own your own metaphors, right? And be your own quirky. As a great quote by Mark Twain, be you as everybody else is taken. Well, the truth is, the same information is out there delivered by many other creators, but people want to hear it from you if they deeply personalize and resonate with you. You're making an introduction to someone, you're warming up with them. And the more we're able to externalize what's going on inside our mind, the invisible world, the more we're able to connect with somebody. It actually builds a lot of trust, because we know the inner world can have lots of quirky, shadowish behavior and thought. Just like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Mr. Hyde that lives within us can sometimes feel very unseen, unheard, because it was probably rejected for so long. But sometimes that quirky metaphor can really connect with an audience, or describing the world as you see it in your own words helps other people understand who you are. I also would suggest knowledge is king. Competence must equate confidence. Otherwise, it's all persona and acting. You need to be as grounded as you can as soon as you press play. And that leaves me to the next one, number 8. Be comfortable with improv and your pink elephant mind. It's the associative mind, the one that's relaxed. It's likely in rest and digest state. So getting really good and primed at slow breath, slowing down your pace, finding your own pace. Speak on what you're passionate about, because passion is defined by being inspired by suffering, and passion is actually born from a form of anger. Erotic mind, erotic self, the ones that's not so socially acceptable either, is a very emotional place. So if we're emotionally blocked, we're likely going to be blocked for our delivery. So understand your story. What would have helped you? What fuels a reason for you to create? And to give you an example, when in the midst of my mental health captions and content, which weren't easy by the way, I remembered the man in America who was suicidal, the person I wanted to help. A little like me, who needed a hand at some point. And even if I didn't feel like it that day, I would show up for them, not me. 9, do the deep work. Self-doubt, perfectionism, performance anxiety are all forms of fearing yourself or judgment. So process your humiliation story, the core root to why you fear delivering your message or being seen. This is where you likely needed all the compassion in the world to heal. And this is why we have to go back to that trauma timeline and give ourselves as much self-compassion as we can. It wasn't your experience to own. It wasn't a part of you needed to internalize. That was somebody else's story projected upon you to make you feel small and then big. And you may have been courageous in that moment, or doubtfully committed to something that you knew was not in alignment with you, and it crushed your soul and spirits. This is where we have to go back and rewire the whole emotional experience and deal with the defensive expectations you now put upon yourself to not go back to those humiliating places and begin again. So to get better at this muscle and skill, middle and mild is just fine at the beginning. You don't need to be your best. There's this really cool phenomenon in psychology called the Pygmalion effect. It's like when a teacher expects a kid to do well, they end up doing well. If they expect them to do badly, they do badly. It's this invisible force that exists between our performance. A little like in the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Those who were oldest in their cohorts in sport made it to be athletes. This wasn't just a fluke. Because they were the oldest, they were the strongest and more physically capable. They were then indoctrinated into the best top-tier academies and expected to achieve. And so they did, on average, more than their younger counterparts who had less expectations put upon them. So how this works with you is be that kind, nourishing teacher, seeing yourself looking at this skill for the first time. And you're likely going to be showing up with a lot more confidence. So heal those expectations you have upon yourself because they mean a lot. Not that they're too high or authoritarian or controlling or doubtful. Instead, they're nourishing. They help push you out of your comfort zone and they're encouraging. Be that for yourself. 10. Fake it till you make it. I hate the saying, but it's kind of true. Experiment with what you desire to be. It's okay to play out other influencers or speakers you admire. I did this. As a socially intelligent and learned species, it's how we find our humor, style, and presence. The mistake I made though was that I allowed the alter ego to depersonalize my message, making what I created more about performance rather than genuinely being helpful. Use this wisely and try putting the end consumer in mind before you create. Getting some form of kit helps here too. So you can fake being that big professional studio, even if you're not even a studio yet. You will feel professional, and there's a sunk cost to motivating you to make it work. And while that's kind of a good self-love practice to invest in yourself and try and up-level yourself because you do believe in yourself, it also is that healthy, push factor there's a financial burden you want to ROI on. Now, ultimately, all of this comes down to practice, and more practice. There's really no exception to the 10,000 hours mastery rule. The more you confront the monster, the smaller it becomes. You have to start, and then you can iterate. And then you keep overcoming the fear of judgment and rejection by putting yourself out there, because that's the ultimate barrier stopping you. Other renowned creators like James Smith, who's the straight talking fitness influencer, and he said his exponential growth curve into millions of followers only came after 4 years of posting consistently, almost daily, going through that grueling iterative process. That grueling form of rejection, that choosing to put yourself out there to strangers daily, actually ends up meeting an exponential growth curve. And it's imminent if you're willing to do the hard yards and gain rejection resilience. You also need to be motivated enough to keep going. I always say hone in on why do you want this so much? Recruit even your shadow's desires. Is it fame, money, or genuinely telling stories and helping people as if you'd like to be helped? And I found a combination of meeting your own desires and needs with being of service to the world tends to be the sweet spot for perseverance. So there you go. Those are my 10 must-do strategies to become camera confident. It's all about understanding your fears, embracing your unique style, and putting in the time and effort to practice and improve. I hope these tips will help you on your journey to becoming a more confident and engaging presenter, because the world needs your message more than ever. Thanks again for watching. If you found these tips helpful, insightful in any way, do like, subscribe, share with a mate, and pop on that bell icon for more insights to building your confidence, crafting your personal brand, and a lot more on masculinity, mental health, and relationships. Keep practicing, keep creating, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.